Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society go, and everywhere we go. Bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Go off and running with a Monday. Not only is it a new day, a new week, it's a new month here, kicking off June here on the Sports Fix. You guys, welcome in, and let's get loose here a little bit, man. I had a fun weekend. I'm feeling pretty stiff here this morning myself. I'll tell you, I got a funny story actually coming out of my wrestling escapades this weekend, but I'll talk to you guys about that here in a minute. The Indians had some fun experiences this weekend to talk about as they took 3 out. I'm all over the place trying to get things started. Mondays are always very fun to get things going on the show behind the scenes, and I'm being sarcastic when I say the word fun because there's always monkeys going on in the background and things and whatever. Anyways, but it looks like we're good now. So anyways, as I was saying, Indians took 3 of 4, won another series here as they're starting to make a habit of this. They ended the month of May with what a run. Not just as a team, Corey Kluber and Jason Kipnis and Corey Kluber, what they did in the month of May. We're going to talk about it here. It's something that isn't repeated very often by teammates or individually. And just like we talked about, hey, back beginning of May, when things are at their worst with the Indians, we talked about June. We circled June 1st on the calendar for Yan Gomes to get back in the mix, for things to start to get together. And if you can be at 500 by that point, hey, at least we got some places to go from there this week. So I'm feeling much better about the nation of the Indians getting their stuff together while a lot of other people are coming back to earth. And we're starting to see that balance itself out here as we start June. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk Cavs and the Warriors. And Warriors, come on out and play, baby. The series begins June 4th. This Thursday, the NBA Finals, the NBA Championship coming down Euclid. I will continue to be very, very brazen with my prediction that the Cavaliers are going to win this series, and they're going to win it in short business. I'm telling you, 5 games, at most, the Cavaliers will be hoisting that trophy, and that's no slight towards the Golden State Warriors, but they're there, but they're not there. They're not where these Cavaliers are and in the mindset that these Cavaliers are. And I'll talk about all of that. Dan Wismar is going to join me from Everybody Hates Cleveland. He's going to be on here as he is every Monday. We'll talk about just that, all the reasons why, respect to being, 13 teams have come into the NBA Finals with 65 wins or more in the regular season. All 13 of those teams won the NBA championship. That will end this one here. It'll be 13-1 for sure. Anyways, we're going to talk about that with Dan Wismar. With you guys, I'm going to open up the phones, and I'm going to open up the show. You guys ready to rock and roll and kick off the month of June or what, baby? Let's do it. Welcome in to the Sports Fix. I'm your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers here doing the Sports Fix thing with you each and every weekday at noon, live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. The always evolving Sports Fix Radio Network. Right now, we're in some transitional periods, by the way. So if you guys listen on some of the platforms and you may be having issues, whether it's with iTunes, whether it's with SoundCloud, whether it's with Mixler, there's transitional things going on behind the scenes. Feeds are being switched over. So if you're being inconvenienced in any way, I apologize. But that's one of the great things about the Sports Fix Radio Network. It's a vast place. There's lots of other places for you to listen. So if you're having some difficulties, please jump on board. Whether you're listening, hey, maybe you're a tune-in guy listening on one of the best places, I think, to listen, because it's practically device-proof, man. You can't mess this thing up. TuneIn's radio apps worldwide. Great place to listen to the show live, and it's got on-demand replays of all the shows. Of course, my friends over here at Spreaker and Mixler and their websites and digital apps. Mixler's got the great little interactive chat room as well going on. Great places to listen to the show live. Welcome in, you guys. And this is, again, as I'm saying, if one of your sites, if one of your places is down, you can always bounce right back to the home base, our home base, thesportsfix.net. It's got everything you need right there. The show plays live right there on the website. It's got all the different links to the replays and podcasts, and social media is built right into the page. So there you go. If you're having trouble with any of our transitions and you're like, hey, I'm missing the show, all kinds of places to get it. Welcome in all of you guys as well. Everybody on digital delay, on the world's largest internet radio provider, iHeartRadio, around the world 24/7, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on Spreaker, SoundCloud, Mixler, TuneIn, all the places that you do. Thank you guys so much for getting your fix, as we say, each and every day. And again, I apologize if you're caught up in any of the transitions, but we provide so many places to go, and it's unfortunately a function of different changes and different things going on, but always a way for you to jump in here and do the thing and do it. As I said, the phones are open. I'm getting ready to go to you guys. I like starting off Mondays when we don't have 8 million things to dive right into, being able to take a few minutes and crack those phones. And I'm going to talk to you guys. 216-539-7535, the number to call. 216-539-7535. Talking Tribe, talking Cavs, hey, Browns. Hey, listen, I'm not going to get into it now. I'm going to wait for Dan Wismar when he joins me. But, say what you want, and we're all about the giving the benefit of the doubt. And I know that not everything that somebody does is their fault, but come on, man. Johnny Manziel, the first time brothers getting out and something's going on again. I'm just saying, some people are just always going to step in the mud puddle. Some people are just always going to be in the middle of the crowd. One of those guys that's always going to be in the middle of something, man. I'm just saying. And besides that, I got much less encouraging news on the football side from people that were there in person last week, besides just throws with footballs and water bottles. But anyways, we're going to talk to Dan Wismar about all of that. Talk to you guys. Hit the phones. 216-539-7535. Hit us on social media. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Speaking of emails, I've got a prize to give away. Before we even talk about anything else, of course, Jonathan Knight, the sports writer extraordinaire, our man, he's with us every Friday here on the show, has written some awesome books over the years, and he's at it again. Major League, one of the best sports movies, in my opinion, of all time, period. I love that movie. I'm telling you, I'm one of those people that's got the whole movie memorized. My man Bruce in the chat room owns the script to that thing. Jonathan Knight loved it so much, he turned it into a labor of love, spent 2 years working on the making of Major League. He's got to interview and sit down with all of the stars and directors and producers in the movie, all of that stuff. It's got some great behind-the-scenes stuff in it. It's a fantastic book, The Making of Major League, you guys. It's got a foreword by Charlie Sheen. Hey, go check it out for yourself, makingofmajorleague.com. But we gave you guys a chance over the weekend to win a copy for yourself, courtesy of Jonathan Knight of the Sports Fix of Gray Publishing Company. And I want to give a shout out to Benny Santiago, who sent the winning email. He's going to win a copy from San Antonio of Jonathan Knight's book, The Making of Major League. Thank you very much to all of you guys who listened on Friday. Jonathan Knight will be back with us here coming up this week. I'm disappointed. I still haven't gotten my copy yet. I'm telling you, I sent Jonathan Knight threatening text messages over the weekend. No, I'm just kidding. But I still haven't gotten it. I'm hoping that it's there waiting for me. I had a book waiting for me the other day, and I thought it was going to be that, and it turned out to be an advanced copy of something else. And I'm like, come on, man. I wanted the Major League book. So as soon as we get it, I'm going to get with you, Benny. I'm going to get that out to you in the mail. Thanks for listening all the way in San Antonio. Indians fans, Cleveland fans, everywhere. We talk to you guys about that all the time. And JK will be back with us here this Friday. Real quick, too, before I dive into anything else, I've got calls in queue. I'm going to go to you guys next. A little quick funny story over the weekend. Hey, the summer of J-Rocc has begun, and I say that tongue-in-cheek about my pro wrestling career. Those of you guys that know I'm doing the thing, doing the comeback, all of that stuff, I have got a schedule. I just added another half a dozen dates in the last few days. I have got a schedule for the remainder of the year that I have not worked in over 10 years, easily. Just an unbelievable run coming up here. I think I've only got about 8 weekends the remainder of the year that I don't have a gig booked so far, and I'm looking to improve that as well. But it's nuts, the summer of J-Rocc. I'm joking about it. A lot of fun things. Hopefully many of you guys, and I've heard from a lot of you who see events all over the place, and a lot of you guys in different states are getting the chance to come out and see me for the first time, and listeners to the show, people that have followed for years. It's kind of cool. It's a really cool thing. This summer is going to be a lot of fun as we get out here, reach out and touch someone, baby. But this weekend I was at the Cinco de Mayo festival, and I'll tell you, I felt bad for them, even though they ended up with a little bit of a crowd in there. But the monsoons just opened up this weekend. For those of you guys here in Cleveland, there were some terrible, terrible thunderstorms all weekend long. So this was hosted at the Berea Fairgrounds. And even though the wrestling event that I was on was indoors, the fairgrounds obviously is outdoors. So, the walk-up crowd just wiped out for this thing for the weekend. And there was some really cool stuff, I walked around. I always love going to different things like that, especially ethnic-type festivals, because you get to see all kinds of different things and culture and foods and stuff. It was really cool. And so anyways, I felt bad because the weather hit them, even though there was a little bit of a turnout for the wrestling show of it. But they grabbed me backstage. There's a guy there there's a radio station here in Cleveland, 87.7. It's the Hispanic station. It's La Mega 87.7. So they grabbed me real quick. I'm in the middle of getting dressed. He goes, "Hey, J-Rocc, man, we want you to go out here and talk on the radio for a few minutes." I'm like, well, I do that every day of my life. No problem. Let's do it. And I feel bad because I don't know the gentleman's full name. They were talking fast, and seriously, there's a lot of people talking Spanish, and I'm not bilingual here. And I know his name was Luis, but I don't remember his last name. I feel really bad saying that, but I could have been dishonest and just made up a last name. Instead, I'm just going to tell you that I have no clue what this gentleman's last name was, but he was a very nice guy. And they go, okay, so Luis so-and-so is going to be in the ring, La Mega 87.7. He's going to be talking, and you go, just go out there and tell people you're going to win your match, whatever, go cut your promo and do your thing. So, okay, no problem. And so I get ready to go out there, and as I'm coming out there, this guy, listen, you guys know me. I'm very protective of what we do, professional wrestling. It's fun, it's entertainment, it's all of that, and that's cool. And as long as you respect it, I'll respect you too. Well, this gentleman, I decided to have a little bit of fun with him, because as I'm coming to the ring, I'm watching him, and he's pantomiming being afraid. Basically, he's kind of mocking what we do. He's over exaggerating being afraid. So I decided that we needed to up the reality level of his fear just a tiny bit. So I wasn't supposed to put my hands on him at all. It was simply I was just supposed to go out there and talk with him. So when I saw him having a little fun, I decided to have a little fun too. So I got in the ring and I grabbed the microphone out of his hand, and the very first thing that I did is reached my arm around his neck and I grabbed him, and I made sure that I put just a little bit of squeeze around his neck. And you could see the look on his face. My son was videotaping. He goes, "Boy, that guy instantly had no idea." You could see the look on his face. I said, "Oh, I know you could, because I wasn't supposed to put my hands on him." And I didn't, and it was great. But you can't sit out there and mock what we do, man. So anyways, I held this gentleman in my arm very gently and snugly, and I walked around and I proceeded to cut my promo with this gentleman locked in my arm the entire time, and realize he's about 6'1", so I've got him pushed down now slunched over to about 5'10". It's great. And let's just say I put the fear in him for a minute. I mean, it was no big deal. And when we were done, it was all good to go. But you don't sit out there and, hey, you want to pretend to be afraid? I just figured I'd make it a little more of a real situation for him. And very quickly, this guy was like, hey, wait a minute. Hey, these wrestler guys are no joke. Yeah, exactly. But it was a lot of fun. Thanks to you guys for coming out. Thanks to those guys for having me. Matter of fact, I think the segment that we did it was either broadcast live or is being replayed on 87.7. So if you listen to that, if you're so inclined, you'll hear about that. But anyways, it was a fun time. I've got a lot more stuff like that coming up. I'll tell you guys more about it later. But I'm done. There we go. Now we've got the warm-up out of the way. And I had to tell that story because it was hilarious. I told him, I said, I'm going to tell this on my show tomorrow. Oh, yeah, look at these pro wrestlers. Yeah, oh, yeah, it's all a big show. And next thing you know, he's going, oh, man, did I pay my life insurance premium this month? What is going on here, man? And so anyways, it was good times, and it was good times with the Indians, good times coming with the Cavs, and good times coming with you. I'm going to the phone. Caller, you're first up on the Sports Fix. Kick us off.
Good morning, J-Rocc.
Good morning, Bruce. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. And by the way, the Tribe are 2 games under 500.
That's right. We're almost there.
So,
We're right under 500, man. That's where we wanted to be hitting the month of June. You and I had this conversation a couple weeks ago, man.
Yeah, where people were already writing them off and waiting for the sell to start.
And it's a combination, and I saw you guys in the chat room this week kind of mentioning it too. It's a combination of the Indians getting going. They had a very tough early part of the schedule, and their schedule kind of comes back down to earth. But as we said, around the other teams, guys are coming back down to earth. Everything, it's what happens in a long season. You have stretches where guys are Superman, like we're seeing with Jason Kipnis, and everything comes back to the middle, and we're starting to see that. And now maybe panic has gone away a little bit, and hey, this is where you're glad that the Cavs were doing their thing, because a lot of people didn't really notice how bad things were feeling around Indian world because they were paying attention to the Cavs. So hopefully they're really just coming around as this thing ends, which we know it's going to end somewhere in the next 10 days or so here, and then hopefully the Tribe's above 500. This thing's still going, and but what a month of May, huh? How about those Indians, man?
Well,
How about
Kipnis kept us alive. I mean, moving him to the number 1 spot.
Kept us alive. He did more than that, my friend, man.
Well,
he
I don't want to say he carried us on his
thing.
back, but, because the next thing you know, he'll be down with a back injury. But he definitely carried us. And
he kick-started the whole thing, baby.
51 hits in a month. First time it's been done since 1938.
I know.
This is just, I'm not ready to build the statue yet, but, every time you seem to get excited about somebody that does something great in Cleveland, the next thing you know, they fall apart. So I don't really want to get my hopes up too high.
Well, you know what though? We got more than one. It's not just Kipnis. Kipnis was matter of fact, Kipnis's month was so amazing that it overshadowed Michael Brantley. You know what I mean? And then kind of even Corey Kluber. Look at what those two did together. By the way, it's the second time in Major League Baseball history that a team had an offensive player with 50 hits and a pitcher with 60 strikeouts in the same month, with Kluber and Kipnis. How about that?
Yeah, and the last time that anybody even came close was like in August and September. It's not even like the beginning of the season that people are doing this. They're always doing it at the end. Let's put that even makes it a little bit more, remarkable that, this early in the season, everybody's hot.
You know what? I was going to do it with Dan, but since we went there with you, let's go. Kipnis' numbers. For those of you that did not hear the final tally for the month of May for Jason Kipnis, 51 hits, a .429 batting average, 22 extra base hits, 30 runs scored, 17 walks, 15 doubles, a .518 on-base percentage, which means your leadoff hitter got on base 52% of the time. That's what you want from your leadoff hitter. Kipnis led the major leagues in hits, batting average, runs, and on-base percentage in the month of May, became the first player in Major League Baseball since Jimmy Rollins in 2005 with 50 or more hits and 30 or more runs in the same month. Most hits in the month of May in Tribe franchise history, and the most in any month for any Indians player since Roberto Alomar back in 2000 with the 51 hits. And here's just a nutso stat to really show you how big of a month Jason Kipnis had. Jason Kipnis had 51 hits in the month of May. In the entire Major League Baseball, only 50 other players had 51 hits on the entire season. On the entire season, Jason Kipnis put that on the boards in the month of May. Just amazing. And you joked and said you may not build the statue, but I'll say this. That's one that deserves a bobblehead at least of a moment in time bobblehead, because we will be talking about Jason Kipnis' month of May for quite some time.
Okay, I agree with the bobblehead part of it. I can live with a bobblehead, but
I mean, how about it though?
No, that
was
the
Indians.
I mean, it was just it was actually fun to watch. I mean, just to see how many hits he was going to get at night.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I was. Go ahead.
I was going to say the night before he went 0 for 4. Yesterday he got 2 doubles and he got the sacrifice that tied the game. So he's doing everything out of the leadoff spot.
He sure is.
And it actually made Bourne better by moving him down.
We were talking about that, Mike and I, on Friday. Absolutely, Bruce. Look at Bourne. I believe he hit 317 in the month of May. Look at that. Bounce back from nearly 200 in the month of April or whatever. That's because that's the problem now with the Indians lineup is 5 through 9. You've got to get figured out whatever down there and get the right group of guys going. But yeah, that appears to have worked double, as you said there. And in general, the Indians warming up as the weather got warm and we hit it. They ended up with 10 of 13 to end the month of May. Obviously took the 3 out of 4 here from Seattle. And I believe the big run is it 14 of 21 that they're on right now? Something like that.
Right, 14 of 21.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that really has done a lot of work to dig them out of the hole that they've put themselves in, and still.
And the starting pitching has been, pretty stellar all year long. It's been the bullpen that's been shaky.
I'll tell you what. Look at a game like the one that they did lose over the weekend there. Trevor Bauer. I mean, what a game that was, by the way. The one that they did lose. What a nail biter there. Bauer did obviously took the loss, but I mean, look at his run. 10 strikeouts in 7 innings, and his last 4 starts, 31 Ks in 29 innings, a 1.5 ERA. I mean, what an emergence. We were all hoping for that from this young man, and we're really starting to see him. And talk about the Indians blossoming at the right time. Bauer as well doing the same thing. But even that, you'll take losing a game like that in the middle of that series, because that's just one that you got to chalk it up and go, okay, you got us. And
it's hard to beat a team 4 times in a row anyway. So
right, on the road,
right.
In a different time zone and all of that stuff, man. I mean, that's because you got the 3-hour time difference and everything else. I mean, yeah.
But if we're being realistic here, the biggest pitch of the series was Nick Hagedorn when he came in and struck out the guy with the bases loaded. And, that kind of just turned that whole game around. Did I lose you?
No. I thought you still had something else to say. I didn't want
to. No, I was going to say, to me, that was the biggest pitching performance of the series. I mean, he came in with the pressure on and did his job for once.
Absolutely.
I mean, not that I want to get down on Nick at all, but, he hasn't exactly been the stopper that we needed out of the bullpen.
No, and if that bullpen pulls itself together here, watch out baseball. At this point, watch out, because the Indians, here's the thing. You can talk about them playing themselves back to the middle and all of that stuff, but with the level of starting pitching that this team has, if the bullpen pulls itself together, I'm telling you now, the Indians can go on a run and continue what they've done here on for quite a while. It does not have to be a small snapshot in the middle of the season, because the starting pitching is not going to recede, in my opinion. They're now
no, they're only getting better.
Themselves. Oh yeah, man, you can see it. Every guy out there, you can feel the growth of these guys and the competitiveness against each other. Is that they're all going out there and just doing their thing. If you get that bullpen together, and you don't need them all, you just need to find a few guys that you can count on and get those outs that you need. And absolutely, man, this thing can be beautiful come the summertime.
Well, I don't know. Who would have thought that Brian Shaw would have been the guy that makes you the most nervous now? And when he comes in, I start getting a little tense. It's like, is he going to be the Brian Shaw we know, or is he going to be the one that's been here all year?
No, I hear you. And you know what? You brought up that game the other day with Hagedorn, and I thought that game, there was a couple of things. That was huge. Cody Allen getting the save, having to go 4 outs was big. But Markham, bouncing back, he had the good first start. He had the rough second start. You weren't sure where things were going to go. I thought that was pretty good. He went, 5 2/3, or 5 1/3 innings, I think. And did pretty well for himself, man. So I was glad to see him reacquit himself there, because that staves off more tumultuousness and, hey, we're going to bring up and move a guy. You know what I mean? I was glad to see him.
And most of the year, people's been saying, well, we have 4 good starters, and then, whatever we get out of the 5th starter, we'll just take.
I'll take that.
He's kind of stepped in there and showed that, he throws strikes, and that's the main thing. If you can throw strikes and let them hit the ball, you have a chance of getting somebody out. If you're just going out there and just, like batting practice, that doesn't help your team at all. So he actually, he does throw strikes, and that's one thing that you can't really knock him for, even when he has a bad game.
That's what keeps him going, because he doesn't have that laser fastball or anything like that. I mean, he's a guy that is going to beat you with, the right combination of pitches. And like you said, throwing strikes and not beating himself. And, hey, again, I was very encouraged to see him bounce back, because I'm not going to lie. I was a Markham guy, and the first start I got all excited, especially because he had the good long relief appearance early on in the season. I said, okay, cool, maybe Markham's going to work out. Then I was like, wow, here we go. And I could see like Jen, one of those kind of things where next thing you know, 1 or 2 shellings in a row, and Sean Markham's been designated for assignment, and here we go. We bring House back up or whatever, and we're still looking. So I was really happy to see him put some at least some temporary solidification. Even if it only buys him another start or 2, it does. And that's one less thing that the Indians have to worry about there. And like you said,
okay, now, with that being said, remember, what was it, 2013, that we would have starters that would pitch 100 pitches and only go 5 innings?
Oh, yeah.
And they'd walk a small village?
Yes.
This starting staff doesn't walk anybody.
That's what they're figuring out, too. I mean, we're seeing that. You're right. I mean, the less you walk, the longer you can go, the more you can stretch out in games, the less you need to rely on a bullpen. And I agree with you there. That has to go, some of that, to the strategy of the way, obviously Mickey Callaway coaches these guys.
That's definitely, Mickey's got to be a big part of this. But, I remember writing a few articles about, is anybody tired of seeing this AAA pitching staff? And,
yes.
How can you go 5 innings and 100 pitches, And your bullpen's going to be worn out by June.
Right, because the first half of last year, that's exactly right, because it wasn't until really the middle to the second half of last year that rotation really started to lock in, and you got Carlos Carrasco locked in there down the stretch, and you started to see, and you were still, up and down with Trevor Bauer, but you got a lot of the hope for this season came out of what you saw in the second half of last season. So, yeah, no, you're right.
And if we can get Jose Ramirez to start hitting, we'll be, even a better team.
Same with
he's not, we're not fielding bad. I mean, Kipnis doesn't play every game now, or Chisenhall doesn't play every game now. I mean, they put Aviles over there.
Oh, I know. I know.
So, the infield is not as shaky as it once was, but still not, up to par. And who would have thought that Rayburn would be our leading right-handed hitter?
Yeah, that's another key. That was one of those guys had to step up, and he's done that, which was big.
That
and,
everybody wrote off at the end of last year. Like, it's time
Absolutely.
to get rid of him. He's overstayed his welcome. He's done.
Yeah.
And he come back and proved himself.
Yep.
I mean, the
No, you're
season's far
absolutely
from over. But, from April till now is like a complete turnaround of this team.
For sure, and to kind of put the cherry on that, we're talking about the bullpen, and they've been battered and beleaguered for a reason because they were not effective much of the season so far, but they're starting to pull it together. You talk about Saturday night, go back to Hagedorn getting getting out of the bases loaded, and then Allen getting the 4-out save, and then yesterday, what was it? Nearly 7 innings by the bullpen, and they gave up 1 hit along the way. That, to me, is a bullpen that maybe, just maybe, is starting to find itself and find the right combination and guys that you can trust in and count on here. And if that's the case, if the Indians can bridge the starters to the end, man, watch out because runs are going to get scarce for teams here real quick.
Okay, let me change kind of gears here for a second. I have one more thing.
Go for it, Bruce.
All week long, stations like Channel 3, Channel 5 been writing articles about how Kevin Love wants to go to Boston or he wants to go somewhere else. And, like I said the other day, why don't you just ask him what he wants to do? And so now I guess all the articles that are coming out is saying, Kevin Love would love to stay in Cleveland and he's sure he can work something out. And, everybody's saying, he wants maximum contracts and, he hasn't really said he wants any of that. He just wants to stay in Cleveland.
Yeah, I listened
to
what he said
yesterday. And so that's kind of, like how Cleveland media, if they don't have a story, they just kind of make one.
Well, it's not just Cleveland. That's media in general. But, yes, I hate that in 2015.
Well, it has to originate somewhere, and you would think it would originate in the city that they're talking about.
No. Actually, surprisingly, no. But I know exactly what you mean. When there's not a story, the media will create one. It's one of the things I can't stand about the society that we live in because there's no more you don't have to back up what you say. All you got to do is put it out there in 140 characters and then just go, unnamed source told me that, and there you go.
And somebody will run with it every
That's
time.
That's it. And then the original story that had no credence has spawned 5 other stories, and then those stories all reference each other with little links in the article so that you can link back and forth between all these articles that are all referencing nothing. That's the best part about it. They all build up credibility, and they're all really have nothing to be credible about it all. But anyways.
Well, exactly. It's like we were talking the other day about, it's like when you were in 2nd grade and you whispered in somebody's ear, and by the time it got to the end of the class, it wasn't even anything to do with what you had started with.
Everybody played telephone, of course, man. And you tell one, and you tell another, and then by the time it gets to the end, I want a hamburger turns into, I jumped down the chimney. I don't know,
Yeah, exactly. And then that's kind of where this story ran to. It was like, and nobody even asked Kevin what he thought.
No, I hear.
And that's
Bruce,
the part that got me.
Bruce, you hear what I put on in the background? Because I haven't been able to do it in a couple of weeks. I had to put on a little Indian fever as we're playing our way out of this, man, because I miss it. But I felt disingenuous with it because the fever wasn't really burning, But now I can see that dot matrix chief waving the blanket and the smoke signals are coming like on the old
scoreboard.
Absolutely, baby.
Yeah.
They're politically incorrect now, but I grew up on those. So, to me, they're the best.
Me too. And thanks for the time, J-Rocc.
You got it. Hey, call me before the finals. Let's talk some finals later on this week.
I can't wait. I mean, it's like Thursday's never going to get here.
I know. By the way, what was you were looking at the pricing here. Tickets just went they're already off sale here this morning, but what was the actual face value? You said $89 was the
$89 to $6,100.
And that's not the secondary market. That is the actual ticket
prices. Is what StubHub is selling them for.
Yeah, there you go. $89 to $6,100, and that's today. And that will I think that will only continue to grow, especially depending on what happens. And let me tell you, if the Cavaliers are in any way in a position that this thing ends in Cleveland in those first 2 games, wait till you see what those values go to. But anyways, all right, Bruce, did you get through? Did you get any tickets?
No, I didn't get any tickets. They're still down.
Oh, they crashed the servers or whatever, yeah.
Right. Everything's still down. They said that stay on the line and they will, get the tickets in the order of which they were received. But, I'm on the computer, so I'm actually just got the page up, and just in case it happens.
Bruce is like, I'm getting my tickets, man. You're not gonna,
yeah, definitely going to the finals. So.
Sounds good. Hey, take a brother with you. No, I'm just kidding, man. Have a good one, Bruce, and give me a call. We'll talk some finals later on this week.
Sure thing, J-Rocc.
You got it. My man,
right.
Bruce. Great call, as always, you guys. Wow, long. Yeah, you know what? Long call, long opening segment. It was a long weekend, so it was worth it. We'll get back into it. Let's take a break here. We'll combine the breaks here. I'll switch them up. We'll put some news out there. We'll get Dan Wismar in on the conversation. We'll pick up here. Let's talk some more. Indians here as they take 3 of 4 in Seattle. Cavs, Warriors. Bruce brought it up. Kevin Love, since he mentioned it, Kevin Love was asked some questions yesterday. We'll talk about that. And I saw Larry in the chat room. I didn't get to it yet, but we'll talk a little bit about the Browns here. Johnny Manziel. Whatever. It is what it is, man. But, when you it is what it is, and we'll talk about it with Dan Wismar from Everybody. No reason to start now. With Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland coming up next after a break and after the news. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, Daddy, here on The Fix.
Each game is a brand new beginning. It's the hits, the homers, the double plays. It's how you feel when we win. So catch Indian fever. Be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. If she keeps this up, she should not expect a Christmas card from anyone in the Williams family. 7 days after eliminating Venus Williams in the first round of the French Open, American Sloane Stephens is testing two-time champ Serena Williams to the max. In today's round of 16, now live on ESPN2, Stephens leads Serena 6-1, 5-4. Serena serving to try to remain in the match. 2-seed Maria Sharapova has already been upset today by 13-seed Lucy Safarova. 7-6, 6-4. 2-seed Roger Federer was a 4-set winner. It will be another day of practice for the Cavaliers and Warriors. They meet in Game 1 of the NBA Finals Thursday, 9 Eastern on ABC TV, 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Hearing on Mike and Mike, PJ Carlesimo said LeBron James makes everyone on the Cavaliers better.
He spends the first quarter of most games involving his teammates and getting them in. He's just brought those guys along. Now, Kyrie played, he got damaged in the Boston series. If Kyrie's healthy, I think potentially this is going to be a great series.
Kyrie Irving of the Cavaliers missed 2 games in the Eastern Finals with tendinitis in his knee.
This summer, Johnsonville reminds everyone to get their sausage family together to enjoy some plump, juicy brats around the grill. Because at Johnsonville, we don't make sausage, we make family and sausage.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Any way you want it, it's the way you need it. Any way you want it.
She loves to laugh, she loves to sing, she does everything.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you here, kicking it along as we roll through, getting ready to have Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland and the Cleveland Fan to join us here and having some fun. We want to have some fun talking sports with you. You can't get in on the phones, but you can roll with us on social media, Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Email us, The Sports Fix at AOL.com, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Email us, The Sports Fix at AOL.com. And I've got to laugh as I got a message from Brian on Facebook. I was a big meanie for picking on the radio guy yesterday when I told a little story about my wrestling show. No. Maybe you misinterpreted my story. All was good. It's just, you're not going to stand there and I know what he had good intentions, and that's why I was good intentioned in my in my approach to things. But you're not going to stand there and feign fear. Let's just go ahead and up it. You ever heard, actors and actresses when they want to cry, they may prick their finger or something to pull a nose hair out, give themselves a little motivation there to get the tears going. Yeah, that's all I was doing, was giving them a little motivation to get the fears going. I'm not a big meanie, Steve. Anyways, welcome back to the show. I'm going to get ready to go to the phones. We're going to talk some Cavs, some Tribe. Hey, don't call Johnny Manziel a big meanie. He may throw something at you, man. I'm just saying, if you're that thin-skinned, brother, let's talk about all of that and more with Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. You think they hate Cleveland now? Wait until we're the NBA champions in about 10 days. Dan, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, Jerry. Good to be with you.
Good to have you. How you feeling today, man? Good weekend? I don't know where the weather where you was. It was pouring here, but...
it's great. I'm always, my mood has so much to do with how the Indians are doing that it's scary sometimes. Yes. I wish it weren't that way, but like you, I'm sure you're like me that, this Cleveland fandom thing, it's not voluntary. A lot of times I'll, if the Tribe loses a game, man, my my mood, my state of mind is just down in the dumps. And so when you go on the road, you take 3 or 4 from Seattle, and all the signs are pointing up for this team. I've got some renewed hope here after this road trip, and you're coming home now, and it's going to be interesting. There's lots to talk about with the Tribe. A lot of trends go in the right direction. Not least the Royals and the Tigers kind of heading south lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you talk about that. I'm right in that boat with you. And all the teams, although it's different. Like, I used to talk about that, of course, a lot of Browns fans, whole week stinks. When they win, the week's good. Same thing. I think that's why the first month was so tough, because it wasn't just because we had high expectations for the Indians, but they're struggling, and it stinks, because you can't get into it. It makes your day bad, and then all of a sudden you're having 3 out of 4 bad days in a row. You're having, 6 out of 8 bad days in a row, and you're going, hey, come on, man. And thankfully we had the Cavs to keep us distracted. But I'm with you. I'm in that same boat with you there, and I think most Cleveland fans have that. You live and die by that, even though you try not to. I mean, obviously, I always say I can't control it. I didn't lose the games, but it feels so much better, and you've got to feel – seriously, and maybe you'll correct me here and say, Jerry, take the glasses off, but you got to feel that it's legitimate build here with the Indians. You can see the pieces coming together. As I mentioned, the bullpen starting to pull their weight a bit and backing up that great starting pitching. The lineup starting to come together. It really feels like it's not just, we're not going to look back next month and go, well, that was just a blip, and now they're back to play in that same April baseball. I feel that they're really starting to trend upwards.
Well, yeah, and it would have been nice if you hadn't spotted your division rivals a 9.5 game head start with a 14-23 bolt out of the gate here. But I'm encouraged. My friend Adam Burke over at Everybody Hates Cleveland, he basically came out this past weekend and with his prediction. The Indians are going to win the American League Central, and he backs it up with all kinds of data. Not only about how the things you're talking about are coming around in terms of maybe the bullpen starting to play, be a little bit more effective, and but you can almost write it down every year that the team with the best starting pitching is the team that's going to end up in first place. And we saw the Tigers go through a stretch there, and last year it was maybe in the Royals' case it was more of a bullpen thing than a starting pitching thing, but they did have James Shields. But that Detroit starting pitching has gone away. There's no more Max Scherzer, Rich Porcello, Drew Smyly, and Verlander's on the DL. They're struggling with starting pitching. Kansas City Royals, Ventura's been getting knocked around. Volquez is sort of carrying them, but they've had guys on the DL. They've had Vargas on the DL. They've had Duffy go down. So they're struggling with their starting staff too, and Jeremy Guthrie's been getting knocked around. So at least with the Cleveland Indians, 4 days out of 5 at least, and you make a good point about Markham's, kind of rebound, but 4 days out of 5 at the least, you feel good about the starting pitcher going for the Cleveland Indians, and over the long haul, that's going to take its toll, and I'm very hopeful right now that this team is heading in the right direction, and you forget that back in 2013. I believe this team was 30-33 after 63 games, and they ended up winning 92.
Oh, don't let Mike hear
I
you
think
say
Adam
that.
pointed that out in his column over at EHC over the weekend. That even though you can say, hey, once you're past the quarter pole, it's not early anymore. We've seen this team, get it together at the end of the season, and certainly under Francona they've done that. And played better down the stretch than they did at the outset, and that sure beats starting fast and falling off a cliff.
For sure. And you mentioned Markham there. Let me jump in at that real quick and ask you, okay, am I wrong to say on any team, if your fifth starter, if you've got a 50-50 shot with your fifth starter out there, I mean, does any team expect more than that? Am I wrong in today's age of, short pitching leashes and bullpens and stuff? I mean, with the depth not as big as it is because there's so many more pitchers available. I mean, fifth starters are not exactly, you know what I mean? Like, to me, if Markham at worst is going to give you a 50-50 shot going out there, and it looks like, he can bounce back, it's not going to, I was worried about that start coming, over the weekend because I wanted to see. I'm like, oh man, is he going to go in the tank? They figured him out in one start, and now here he goes too. But shows that he can give you something. But even if he gives you a coin toss out of the fifth spot with the other 4 that you got, that's as good as you can ask for. If I'm thinking, am I wrong?
Oh, no, not at all. I think, what I'm looking for from Sean Markham is give me 5 innings and give up 3 runs or less. Because that's the way this team is going to win. Maybe the way they have to win. But they played 4 games against Seattle. Seattle did not score more than 3 runs. It was 3-2, 3-3.
Yep.
And in those 4 games, and they're lucky they won one of them, scoring at that rate. But that's what you're going to get with this Indians rotation, and that really is, I think, how we're going to have to do it. But no, for Markham, I'm looking for 5 innings and I'm looking for 3 runs or less, and hand it off to the bullpen. Keep your team in it. Don't get blown out. Give these guys a chance to win it at the end.
Right.
That's really all I want from them. We had higher hopes, Gary, at the start of the season that we had all this starting pitching depth, and it just kind of bled away as we went through the McAllisters and the Chens and those folks. You'll have to like what you see, at least 2 out of 3. If you can get two good starts out of 3 from Markham, I guess that's something we'll take at this point.
For sure, and you mentioned that bullpen. I mean, I look at over the weekend a couple of key situations. Bruce was talking about it when he called in. When you look at Saturday and then yesterday, really, 1 hit over nearly 7 innings from your bullpen. I mean. And I'll give you, Seattle is not, the strongest, but they're not, they've got some ability. You got Cruz in there. You've got some guys. I mean, and they did a great job. So you sit there and go, boy, if they can even just begin to pull themselves together there, it's very scary to think what that is. And you talk about other reasons. You mentioned the pitching and the team with the best pitching for sure. But, I mean, you can look at all the trends here. Even just let's start with the record. I mean, in April, obviously terrible. 7-14 in the month of May or of April. In the month of May, they went 17-12. As you said, at their worst, they were, was it 9.5 or did they reach 10? Because I wasn't sure. But whatever.
I'm not sure. I think 9.5 was about the most I saw.
But either way, they cut 3.5 games off of their deficit in the month of May. They've got themselves, they end and they start June here, 6.5 games behind Minnesota, and just a couple of games behind Detroit there. But they cut 3.5 games off of their deficit there. From a team that couldn't win series all the way through, they've now won 4 of their past 5 series after this. Here's another thing, the Indians, their struggles came at home. They're above 500 on the road now with this 3 out of 4 in Seattle. They're now 14-12 on the road. That's a sign to me. Winning on the road, as we know, is more difficult. That's a sign to me of also a team that's got more places to go here this season. And it's easy to say, oh, well, I'm telling you why the Cleveland Indians are not just in a hot streak, but they're in an area where they're going to maintain this level of play for a while.
Right, and of course we don't know that that's going to happen, but you do know that when you're rolling out good starting pitching every day that you're going to have a chance. We haven't seen Yan Gomes get his bat back yet. He's been struggling since he's been back, and that I think is going to make a big difference in this lineup, as we've talked about from the get-go. Some of the biggest things that I saw over the weekend, first of all, I've been very pleased with Ryan Webb. As much as Francona might deny it, or the pitchers themselves might deny it, it's hard to shake the feeling that those right-handed relievers last year, and maybe to some degree, Zapchinski and Crockett or whoever might have been overused last year. But I think you can certainly say that Allen and Shaw and Atchison were overused last year, and that some of the effects that we've seen this year. So I think this bullpen has needed a power arm in the worst way. I was very encouraged by Austin Adams yesterday. Coming in, he's mopping up a little bit. He's pitching the last inning with a 3-run lead there in extra innings. But I didn't know that Adams brings that ball at 98, 99 miles an hour. That kid showed me something the other day. This bullpen has needed a power right-handed arm. Atchison has not been effective. Shaw has lost a mile an hour or two, I think, off his fastball, although he did have good stuff yesterday. but the emergence of Adams and Webb has really, pumped a little bit of power and toughness into that bullpen from the right-hand side. That, to me, is very encouraging.
Yeah, and I agree with you. All great points, man, and it's got you feeling good. It's got me feeling good. As I mentioned earlier, when we were looking at the early part of the month of May, we focused on this date here and said, if this, if that, if this. They didn't get everything. As you mentioned, Gomes, and there's still, Ramirez is still trying to find himself offensively. Different things like that, just in general, defensively as well. But not everything happened, as we said, but enough of it did. And when you've got a guy going like Jason Kipnis, he helps make up for a few deficiencies as well. But they did exactly what we said. I mean, you said end June 1st at 500. They missed it by 2 games, but you can definitely feel it trending upwards in Kipnis. I brought him up there. Let's just leave that out there for a minute. Real quick, I don't know if you know the answer to this. I almost choked on my coffee because I was like, wow, really? It's not the name you would think. Kipnis hit 429 in the month of May. In Indians history, it was the best in any month since 1986. Do you know who the previous best was?
Oh, yeah, that's amazing what he's done. And the number that I saw that they were, pushing on the telecast yesterday was the 50 hits and 30 runs.
Yes.
Going back to Al Simmons and Ty Cobb or something.
Well, that's in the month of May.
Guys to do that in the month of May. I mean, that's when you're talking about a couple of Hall of Famers from a previous century that really makes the achievement stand out. But he's been amazing. But I tell you, Jerry, the thing that's striking to me on June 1, more than anything else, to remind us that we're only 1/3 of the way through the season, is the 2 best records in the American League, the Minnesota Twins and the Houston Astros.
Yeah, absolutely.
How incredible is that, and how unlikely is that? Just another example of how baseball gives you what you never expect and couldn't have predicted. The Twins that also ran in the Central. That team that was going to be down there while the other 4 teams were going to fight it out for the division. Adam Burke, I keep referring to that article, he kind of points out the flaws in some of the statistics that you see. The Twins have played a very easy schedule. They've played something like 26 games against sub-500 teams, and they're 12 games over 500 in those games. They're under 500 against teams with a winning record, and all those things are going to balance out, and I do not expect the Minnesota Twins to be sitting on top of the Central when the season is over. And they may be in last place, who knows, but they've got a good jump on it. And the Astros, I just don't expect the Astros to be there at the end of the year either. But here we are, June 1. You could have made a lot of money if you'd have been in Vegas and made some bets on the Twins and the Astros being at the top of the American League standings.
I agree. And I'm with you, though. I'll go so far as to say by 4th of July, I think both of those are in different situations. I think it's teams that will have some early – I think both of those teams are going to fade as the summer goes on and the heat kicks up with you. But, yeah, absolutely. And it just shows you that it is only a snapshot in what is a long season. And I was mentioning that about Kipnis. Pat Tabler. I mean, I just couldn't believe that was the name. The best month of Indians history before Kipnis's or prior to this.
1986, yeah.
Yeah, 463
and didn't he hit
in August.
460-something. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I remember it. I remember how he carried the team even more to the extent than Kipnis is doing now. That was just an incredible run for Tabler. He just could not get him out that year. That was an amazing streak.
I know nobody wants to hear this right now, and I don't want to say it because the Indians are I think, turning things around. But you know what we looked at, and J.K. did that article with the symmetry between 1987 and the early start of this season. You could do the same thing with the second half of 1986 and the second half of 2014, because it's a lot of the same thing that led to Sports Illustrated picking the team to be the hot pick and all of that because of the way, like Tabler having that run that he did down at the end of the season. And it was the way they finished strong that led people to believe what was coming over the hill in 1987. So I know nobody wants to hear that, but I noticed that too. There's some similarities there. But I mean, just disgusting. You mentioned the Cobb and Simmons. That's not Indians. That was in baseball history, the best months of May. the bat from Jason Kipnis will probably end up in the Hall of Fame on display for month of May displays because it's Ty Cobb and Al Simmons, the only people ever in May in baseball history with 50-plus hits and 30-plus runs, man. That's, again, shows you what a small snapshot it is. I told Bruce, he said, I'm not building a statue. I said, but I'll make him a bobblehead for the month of May, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. That's some rarefied air, some exclusive company for sure. And what you hope is that that the kid can just hit 300 or better. I don't want him to hit 340 the rest of the year. I want him to just show some consistency and not pull a Lonnie Chisenhall of last year where he was this time of year hitting 385 and he hit under 200 the rest of the way and ended up hitting 280 or something for the season. Consistency is where it's at, and I'll take 30 points, 40 points less on the batting average if you can do it for the next 4 months in a row, and I'm sure that's what he's thinking too. I saw him interviewed last night after the game, and that's really where his head is too. Just keep doing what you're doing, and don't fall off a cliff, and just maintain some consistency.
Yep, and that move we mentioned earlier helped Borney, too. I mean, Michael Bourne ended up with, 315, 317 or so average for the month of May. I mean, a big uptick from him, whether it was I don't know if it's the platooning, if it's the pressure of finally just go get yourself together. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, there was clearly a difference. He finally was starting to get that back going a little bit.
Yeah, and I was beginning to wonder whether he had just completely lost it and was unsalvageable. But something about a blow to the ego, hitting seventh or eighth instead of first, and maybe it's a little bit less pressure, and who knows? Maybe it's a combination of other things. But yeah, it's good to see Bourne, striking the ball a little bit, and again with him, it's a matter of staying injury free too, and keeping his legs healthy, and he can obviously help this team at the bottom of the lineup. You talked about how the bottom end of that lineup has to start, picking it up a little bit, and Ramirez would be part of that issue, and of course Bourne as well, and they have been hitting Perez down there when he was playing regularly, but getting Gomes going in the 6th spot or the 5th spot, wherever he happens to be, is going to be a big part of that, and I have a feeling that we're on the verge of him coming around. He had a couple of hits the other day, and he still looks a little bit lost at the plate, but he's a stick. He's going to come around. He's our silver slugger, and when he rounds it into form, that's going to mean a lot for this team.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. We cross into hour 2. J-Rocc, Dan Wismar. We're talking some Indians here as we cross into the month of June. And you know what, too? We mentioned the pitching earlier, Dan. And looking at the starting pitching every time out, I know you said it in the spring, and I just keep waiting for it. Before we're done, I think you're going to be Nostradamus on this thing. When you watch Bauer, when you watch Kluber, you watch Carrasco, so one of these guys is going out here, and they're going to pitch a no-hitter before this season's over. I mean, your boy Trevor Bauer, really, we knew the potential was there, but he is just continuing to go out there and impress. He's beginning to be more economical, stretch himself out. He's now gone 4 straight starts. Even in a tough luck loss like the other day, another fantastic performance from him. He is really dialing into form here too, which we were really hoping to see.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, it's very easy to make the case that Trevor Bauer has been their best pitcher. Not even their best starting pitcher, their best pitcher from opening day until now. Certainly had Corey Kluber, who's the big name, but he was 0-5 with a 5+ ERA. So it's kind of hard to he didn't get much run support. But then again, he wasn't that effective. He wasn't the Corey Kluber of 2014 either. So it's easy to say as you look at the starts, and I can really only remember one really bad start for Bauer. He has also suffered from lack of run support, but like I said, it's your overall since the start of the season.
And it's something very refreshing to see here as the Tribe now has a day off, and then they've still got to wrap up this road trip, and you go back in the division here as we've got Kansas City coming up, and a couple of good matchups here. Tribe, you got Kluber and Vargas in the middle of that thing. Carrasco and Guthrie, couple, maybe grab a few games here, cut away into that lead before you come back home. And you got the big series with Baltimore coming up. There's some good I think it's, speaking of bobbleheads, I think they got a Kluber bobblehead coming up this weekend, and fireworks night, and what I'll tell you, if they can go take 2 out of 3 on the road here in Kansas City and come back with yet another series, bring themselves back home with a fireworks night with good weather, first weekend homestand in June, boy, things can get, and the Cavs on top of that, I mean, things could get really interesting here coming around the corner here.
Yeah, Cleveland could be the place to be here in the sports world here pretty soon. I noticed too that, well, first of all, let me just say that the series in Kansas City is huge, don't you think? I mean,
yeah.
This team was not really competitive with the Royals earlier. I mean, they made us look bad, and so did the Tigers. I mean, out of the gate when the Indians were playing badly, and both those teams got up to such white hot starts. We did not look good. We did not look like we were a competitive team in games against those two teams. So I think there's a point to be made here. The Indians have to assert themselves here in Kansas City this week. And just say, hey, here we are, get used to it kind of thing, and be competitive and compete on the field and win a ball game or two and show up. I think they will. I think they've got that mindset now, and they've been playing well on the road. But I just think this series could be crucial, if only for their mindset, their mentality. And then you get to come home, like you say, and I noticed that the Orioles have only won 6 road games all year. The Indians are 14-12, I think you said. Here come the Orioles into town with 6 road wins all season. So you've got to take advantage of that and kick them while they're down. But, you've got a chance to, in the next week and a half or so, the next 10 games, to crawl back over 500 and really set yourself up.
You want to know something interesting, too, as we talk about the division? I've got the standings and the splits and stuff pulled up, and I think this is interesting for all the struggles of the Indians' offense, and this just really speaks to the microscope of little pieces of the season and then looking at it as a whole, because for as much as the Tribe was struggling and all of that, do you know that the Indians have scored the most runs of any team in the Central Division, and the Indians have scored more runs than all but 3 other American League teams so far this season? Bet you wouldn't know that by looking at especially the way the month of April went.
Yeah, that's true. And I noticed that right up top of the Toronto Blue Jays, they scored 268 runs in their 6 games under 500.
And they're sub 500, so, exactly.
That doesn't necessarily get you to the mountaintop, but yeah, you're right. I'm surprised to see that the Twins and Tribe are tied with 225, and you wouldn't get anybody to predict that or to out of the blue without knowing that, to say that the Indians have scored more runs than either the Royals or the Tigers. That is a surprising number to me too, I'll have to admit.
And now, even though, as you pointed out, I'm big on not using these numbers as standalones. Like you just said, you look at Toronto, that's the perfect example. But they've got a plus 25 run differential, one of the best in the American League, and there they sit at 23 and 29. But you take them and you combine a couple factors together, and looking at the fact that their production offensively, looking at where it is, and as we mentioned, with the pitching that they had, that's what brings it all back around for the Indians. And you know that as this pitching gets better, I'm telling you, with the Indians' offense being more capable than some people may have thought a month ago, it's going to look a whole lot better as this pitching begins to kind of vice down on teams, especially if these starters can keep going longer and deeper. And that, because that's the other thing too, is it's the exposure of the bullpen, Dan. It's a hell of a lot easier to ask your bullpen to get you 2 innings than to ask them to get you 4, instead of 20 or whatever.
Yeah, no doubt, and I think you alluded to it earlier about Trevor Bauer, who in a couple of his starts this year was hitting 100 pitch mark about the 5th inning because he's nibbling, he's striking out guys instead of getting them to put the balls in play. And both he and Kluber, too, I think, are starting to get to that point now where they are being more economical with their pitches and starting to be able to go, 7 or 8 innings instead of 5. in their starts, and that saved wear and tear on the bullpen. Plus, I think it's helpful too that you've got a couple of fresh arms coming into that pen, and I don't think it'll be too long before we maybe see Cal Crockett back with the team. But I'm happy with what they've done and the performance they've gotten out of Hagedorn for one, certainly.
Yes.
And Sapinski has sort of righted the ship after a rocky start as well. And like I said, some of the youth coming in from the right hand side is good. I don't think Atchison will be back. I think they DL'd him with an ankle or something, and I think that was probably just one of those invented injury things because we're making a move here. And I think when he's he may be DFA'd rather than ever come back and help this team, because I think in Webb and Adams you got a couple of arms that can be the Scott Atchison replacement long term.
I hear you on that, but did you listen to Terry Francona the other day talk about Atchison? Because I do hear where you're coming from, but Terry Francona's pretty genuine with the media, and he said something very different about Atchison the other day. He said, he made it very clear that they're going to need him, that they're gonna need to get some key innings from him, and that they want to get him right. It didn't sound to me like a guy that needed to go figure himself out and work his way back into the plans. And hey, you may be right, and that just may be the public face on it, but usually Terry Francona has a way of saying things where you can kind of tell where he's going. And to me, it sounded like they have every intention of trying to put him back in the mix. Now, maybe other guys, as you mentioned, Adams and guys, maybe they give you a convenient excuse not to. Maybe if they're hot, then you can go, boy, Atch, we'd really like to get you in there, but, man, we kind of don't want to mess with things right now, the way things are going. So maybe that'll be fortuitous for the Tribe. But Francona really sounded to me like somebody who had every intention of getting him back in there in 2 weeks.
Well, that may be, and that gets back to some people's complaint that maybe Tito Francona, who favored the graybeards, the guys with a little gray around the temples, maybe shouldn't be determining the makeup of the 25-man roster is supposed to be the general manager's job, not the manager. And if you've got a guy who has older guys, veterans, graybeards, and Atchison certainly qualifies in that category, then maybe the wrong guy is determining the roster. Who knows? Maybe part of Francona's deal is that, hey, once the season starts up at Santonetti and the first
statement, and the office says, hey, to be honest with you, man, we don't, and then, okay, but he may, at least he saves face publicly. But I just, as soon as you said that, I'm like, yeah, I would do the same thing. But I was actually yelling at my radio because it was late night. It was before one of the Seattle games, and so I was listening to the pregame, and there was a whole couple of minutes he talked about that, and he did the whole, man, I really pulled Atch aside, and you know how Terry Francona talks, he's like, I pulled Atch aside, and I told him he's going to be big for us, he's going to be key, we're going to need him to come up for us, so he tweaked his ankle, and he's been pushing through it, but we're ready to we want him to get it right, because we're going to need him here when we make a push. He's going to be big, and we got to have him right. So we want Atch to go fix it up and come on back and do it. So I said that sounded to me like a guy who's coming back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that may be just manager speak.
Yep.
Saying what he's expected to say, but yeah, it will be interesting to see how they do that, and especially if over the next couple of several games or whatever, Adams and Webb continue to get right-handers out with power stuff, and we'll see how that plays out too. That'll be a big part of the decision, I'm sure.
Well, Webb, you and I were on the air, I think, the day they signed him a few months back or whatever, and I was interested. That's again, there's a couple of guys, Chachin, who's hanging down there. There's a couple of guys. Webb was one that the Tribe had their eye on here and there, and were able to bring in. So I was interested to see him too. And you're right. I mean, whether it's those guys or just whether the bullpen continues, because they did with it between Saturday and Sunday, we had almost 7, and then another 3.5 or 4. I mean, that was 11 plus innings of relief work from the bullpen in those 2 days there. So if they continue on that, then yeah, I think the decision makes itself, and then it becomes easy to go, man, I can't mess with anything, Atch. We'll give you a chance to go catch on somewhere else. We're doing you a favor here, man. And then you know how that whole spiel goes, and
yeah. And speaking of the status quo, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're sitting here on June 1, and that was the day that everybody was sort of circled on the calendar for the Lindor experiment to potentially begin. And but where do you go with that? I don't know where you are with that right now, but and I haven't kept track of how the kid's been doing down in Columbus for the last week or 10 days. But do you see anything on the horizon there shortly?
Offensively, not good. As a matter of fact, I think he just cooled off again. He had slightly started to warm up, and I think he's having another bad run of a week or so here where it's just – and he's not knock him dead with the glove either, to where it's really hard to make the case to call him up. And I was big on calling him up a little while back too, but if you're being totally honest, the way he's playing, and not just now, but since he's got to AAA, it's really hard to make the case. I mean, Ramirez was what was making it more pressure to make that case because he was struggling too. And then you're like, well, if somebody's going to struggle, let the future struggle. You know what I mean? But he's really not making a case where anybody can even – and you notice the drum's not beating as loud anymore because he's making it impossible right now for you to argue that he doesn't need more time at AAA.
Yeah, and that's what the front office people always say is that, we don't need to decide when it'll be time for Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor will decide when it's time. He will determine with his play that we can no longer keep him down there. And so right now they're, like you said, the clamoring is quieted down, and he's not making the case. He's not making that decision for them. Like they always say. I
didn't even notice, just to counter the Super 2 argument that people make, and that's why the whole reason why the Indians delayed things with Lindor. But a great point that he made in the PD yesterday was that the Indians have already done that with two guys recently, and Salazar, in bringing them up early to the point that they'll now both become, was it Bauer or was it Carrasco? I don't know. Either one. No, Bauer, yeah. And they'll both become Super 2 players because of the timing of when the Indians brought them up. So it kind of shoots holes in the theory that the Indians will not bring up guys if they need them, and they'll worry about that because they just did it with two other guys in the last year, and it's going to cost them a bunch of money in the long run.
Yeah, that's true. They sometimes pick out selective examples to make their point, and they ignore the fact that this is not something the Indians do as a trend or as a fixed practice. Because obviously there's examples to the contrary.
Well, of course, absolutely. But I mean, if they're, again, I don't know if, as you said, if he had been playing, that's where it makes it hard because you go back to his play, and he would be knocking down the door. So I don't know, but. Think about this. That's again a piece that can be in play later or not if he doesn't play himself there. But now the next third of the season, the next quarter, however you want to break it down, is about positioning yourself for what are you going to do in July when you come to the trade deadline. Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? Are you standing pat? And if Lindor's heating himself up around that time, then that becomes another piece that could perhaps be mixed into your playoff push. But I mean, this next 2 months is all about deciding if there's going to be a playoff push.
Right, and I've got to believe at this point that the Indians consider themselves, very much in this thing, even if you're only using the last 2 weeks or the last 2 or 3 weeks as your indicator of that. You've got to feel good about your situation right now based on how you started, especially because, like I said, the Tigers definitely coming back to the pack. They're only 4 games over 500.
And they're 3 and 7.
There's nobody
10.
that's invincible. I think you've got to look at the starting pitching problems of the other teams in the division. All 3 teams above the Indians have some serious starting pitching question marks and issues and injuries. And that's really where the bread is going to be buttered. And if the Indians don't consider themselves buyers at the trade deadline, then, boy, I don't know what they're thinking because if they can add a piece or two, a bat or a bullpen arm or even a starting pitching arm, to fill in that 5-hole, that would be, to me, that would be where I would be looking. I would be looking for a guy that can be a 5th starter that would be an upgrade over Markham. To me, that's the biggest need on the team right now. You could say right-handed bat, you could say, bullpen help, but I don't think there's any need greater than that fifth starter.
Yeah,
that's what teams do that are going to try to make a push for the playoffs and the pennant in the World Series, is they pick up starting pit trade deadline. That's where I'd like to see him go.
Yeah, like Porcello a couple years ago when Detroit grabbed him. He was like one of the everybody was grabbing aces, and he was like the underrated one, and he came in and helped solidify things for Detroit there, and I think he ended up
right. And last year you had Lester and those guys
Yeah.
that were being moved, however you want to call it, guys that were thought to maybe be over the hill, but that's where I'd like to see him go.
Yeah, 3-7 would have fooled somebody into taking that contract. But all these pieces, as guys are hitting, Rayburn, Murphy, they're all contributing. Guy when they're hitting 220, when they're contributing, and when they're hitting 300 in a platoon situation, you know what I mean. They all of a sudden now, when they're not doing anything, then of course you want to get rid of them, and nobody wants them. But they open up options there. I think they've got a lot of movable parts and pieces, and I do think that they'll have the ability. I mean. It's just a matter of just the front half.
I have had Murphy on the trading block ever since spring training, before spring training.
I've had him there since November.
He'd be a likely guy for a team that's looking for a 25th man and a left-handed. He's really contributed now to the point that you don't know if you really want to get rid of him because it really helped your team. The stunning stat from last night, by the way, that I'm sure everybody heard on the telecast, was that prior to Murphy's base hit the other night in the 12th inning, with the 22 with 2 outs and the bases loaded in 2015.
Wow.
That tells you a little bit about how this team has struggled to have situational hitting and clutch hitting in the first couple months of the season. I had not heard that stat before yesterday.
Me neither.
And then, 2 batters later, Brantley walks with the bases loaded and Murphy gets a big base hit, basically wins the game for you. But that in the bullpen. But, Murphy is a guy who might be movable for a starting pitcher if you think that you've got somebody else to do that. And you could upgrade the defense in the outfield with some of your younger players. I'm thinking about the Holtz and the Ramseys more than anybody else. Those are the 2 guys that really you're going to look at as people that would be brought up to replace David Murphy if you were able to move him, presumably for pitching. That's it's getting to be that time of year when these are the kinds of conversations everybody's going to be having.
Well, thank goodness, because the other conversations we were going to have would have been a whole lot less pleasant, that's for sure. And as we mentioned here, you go to Kansas City, then you come home. Kansas City's been very strong at home. They're 17-7, but the Indians have played well on the road. If they can take 2 out of 3 here, you come back home sitting pretty at 500 and getting ready to hopefully feast on Baltimore and some good crowds here coming in this weekend. As you mentioned, Detroit's cooled off. They've lost 7 of their last 10. Kansas City's cooled off as well. And here's a chance to start to make up that ground that you gave away earlier this season. They've made up 3.5 games of that. They've got 6.5 games more, and they can pick a couple of those away here against Kansas City. That should be fun starting tomorrow. And I know you and I on Wednesday can get way deeper into the Cavs and the Warriors as this weekend goes by. I'm still amazed nationally at how much I know LeBron laughs at the word underdog, but nationally, nobody is giving the Cavaliers their just due in this series. I mean, I have seen, even in our news report here earlier, it was, if Kyrie Irving plays, this could be a great series. Like, listen, I think people are just totally overestimating the Golden State Warriors, or maybe underestimating the defense of the Cavaliers, but that's going to change really quick on Thursday night, my man. But talk to me a bit. Are you seeing the same narrative that I'm seeing? I mean, I'm really seeing this. A lot of people have this thing locked up in Golden State's favor, unless LeBron, channels the spirit of Wilt Chamberlain for a series or something like that and just does it all by himself.
Well, I'm wondering, first of all, which LeBron these guys have missed in the playoffs. You're right. I see the same narrative you do, that the Warriors are the heavy favorites, and boy, the Cavs' chances all hinge on whether Kyrie Irving can contribute.
Yeah.
You mean like he contributed to the sweep of the Hawks? You mean like how he contributed to, all but a game and a half of the series against the Bulls? If LeBron can turn into Superman, well, hey, have you seen the S on the guy's chest? Have you been watching? I just really wonder how they, did you see the game that the Cavs and the Warriors played in Cleveland late in the game when the Cavs won by a dozen and basically won it going away without a whole lot of struggle down the stretch, a double-digit lead the whole second half, and kind of just finished out the game with a 12-point win. That's the game I saw. That's the game that I'm looking at as the only thing close to the matchup that we're going to see starting Thursday. So yeah, I'm bullish on the Cavs. And again, it's based on, I think, as close to an objective judgment as I'm capable of giving. I admit it's certainly tainted by homerism, but I try to envision the Warriors beating this team 4 times, and I just don't see that happening. Go back to Wendy's favorite statistic about LeBron winning a road game in now 20 consecutive playoff series. You just got to win. One over there and hold court at home, and they've got it. So I just like the Cavs' chances to go out there and win one of these first 2 games, and then it'll be catch-up time for the Warriors, not for the Cavs.
I mean, I've got to tell you, besides the fact that I truly believe that the Warriors, their heart is going to be ripped out of them here in the first 2 games of this series when they meet a force as possessed as LeBron and the Cavs are coming into this series. But statistically, people are fooling themselves if they don't realize that not only are the Cavs the best defensive team in the NBA, but they're primarily the best defensive 3-point defending team in the playoffs. They are demolishing teams' ability to shoot the 3. Teams are shooting 28% from 3 against the Cavs in the playoffs. Overall, teams are shooting only 41% against the Cavs in the playoffs, but they are primarily destroying the 3-point shooting ability of their opponents. That is the primary weapon of the Golden State Warriors. That alone is reason enough to know that the Warriors do not match up to. It's all about matchups, and their strength is the Cavaliers' biggest defensive strength. And as I said last week, if you take away plan A, what is the Warriors' plan B to beat the Cavaliers? Because it doesn't exist. If they're not nailing those threes, they're getting swept by this Cavaliers team. And that's not hubris. That is the reality of the Cavs now as they're playing and the Golden State Warriors.
True thing is, or at least another gunning kind of a game that they can control necessarily, rebounded by the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think I could. And most people that are the presumed experts are predicting that not only on the offensive end but on the defensive end. You can't run and get into fast breaks if the Cavaliers are rebounding their own missed shots, Tristan, or it's just not going to be a run and gun game. The playoffs are notoriously more of a half-court game anyway. So that's the Warriors' plan B, is to get into a wide-open game where you're just going to flat outscore the Cavs. And I heard, again, Wendy saying this yesterday, that the key for him, for the Cavs to win, is to score more points. Now, it's obviously sort of a kind of a point. Yeah, you're going to have to outpoint the other team, but they're going to have to find more scoring than they've been getting. In other words, he's saying the Cavs aren't going to be able to score mid to high 80s to low 90s points in a game and expect to beat the Warriors. Well, unless they can, right?
I disagree.
And maybe he's right that the Cavs will need to be around 100, but the Cavs have been scoring 100 plus, all season long, and it's, the playoffs do tend to lend themselves to lower scoring games, but Cavs can pick it up and score when they have to.
And Dan, let me jump in. Let's go back. Look at the beginning of this season, and even at the point when the Cavs made their trades, whatever. But look at the first part of this season, and what was the biggest story? Whether it's nationally, whether it's the fans, whether it's LeBron's own words, whether it's the media, whatever, that the Cavs can go far and that they have a bright future over the next few years. But the biggest thing that was going to hurt the Cavs was lack of playoff experience, lack of this and that. Okay. Well, as we sit right now, The Cavaliers have a bunch of people in their organization who have been to the playoffs, who have been to the finals, who have won championships. There's not with the exception of Steve Kerr, who played for the Bulls, there's no assistant coaches, there's no players, there's nobody on their roster that can say the same thing about the NBA Finals. So how come it was a detriment to the Cavaliers earlier in the season, and the reason that they couldn't win was their lack of experience, yet they are the team in these finals with the complete majority of anybody with experience at this level of basketball? Not one Warrior has been there. They are the Cavs of 2007. They are there, and they're full of fire and hubris right now, and the lights are going to be big and bright on June 4th, and they're going to get swept up, and they're going to be like the Cavs in 07 afterwards, going, how did that happen so fast? We didn't even know what happened, and it was over, because they've never been on that stage before. How come, Dan, every year, whether it's LeBron with the Cavs, whether it's Kevin Durant with the Warriors, whether it's pretty much anybody except LeBron James and Magic Johnson, who have to go through it, they have to lose, they're never going, they don't do it, and yet it's a foregone conclusion that doesn't apply in this series, but it applied everywhere else.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think I think the number that I heard was 89-0 in terms of games on the roster in the finals.
Yes.
Experience in finals games, 89 on the Cavs to 0 on the Warriors.
0.
And you're right. That's the standard. That's a standard line. It's like the Super Bowl. You got to get there and lose before you can get there and win. And we hear it all the time. And for some reason, like you say, we're just not hearing it about this. That's the Warriors are this, the Warriors are that, and we don't revisit our own narratives when And again, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Cleveland always loses in the finals, so they're going to lose this time. I think maybe that might be some of the mindset that's affecting, the Warriors being the prohibitive favorites in this thing. And they won 60-some ball games and had the best regular season record. But we've talked about it a few times. The run and gun and the 3-point shooting game is mitigated in the playoffs. It isn't what it is. It isn't the same game in the playoffs that it is in the regular season. I think they found that out a little bit in the playoffs as they struggled a little bit in a couple series. And, I think they're going to find it out here too, because one thing, if anything, maybe Ty Lue hasn't gotten enough credit in the national media for what he's done in the playoffs to put up those kinds of defensive numbers. Credit Blatt, but also credit Tyronn Lue. He's the man that puts together the defensive game plan, and there's no denying that it's been working, and there's no reason to suspect that it's not going to work again.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you, you bring up some of the stats, and we always talk about the advanced metrics. I don't know if you know that ESPN subsite, the 538 or whatever that they've got, which is all about the statistical.
Nate Silver, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I have to mock one of the things that I saw on there recently because it just made me laugh. They had an article about this year's Warriors and how they're the third, based on all of these advanced metrics and all these 3-digit abbreviations, you don't know what they mean, that the Warriors are like the third best NBA team of all time. Only the Bulls of 98 and one other team was better. And I'm like, so it made me click on the article because I'm like, well, let's see what this is about. So I start reading into it, and instantly, you know what made the whole thing garbage for me? According to this poll, the 13th best team in the history of the NBA was the 2009 Cleveland Cavaliers, a team that couldn't even get out of their own conference in the playoffs. And I'm like, you know what? You guess who's better than the 2009 Cavs? The other 60 teams who have won an NBA championship, plus a whole bunch of other. The Cavs were just one of many teams that didn't even make the finals that were in their top 20 or 25, and they go, oh well, the data's skewed more towards modern teams. Well, of course, because it's a subjective poll. But I laugh. This same one has the Warriors, the third best team of all time, but then the 09 Cavs are the 13th greatest NBA team of all time. The team that lost to the Magic very handily in the conference finals.
Yeah, and again, they might be reminded that, the best teams in the NBA are not determined in Excel spreadsheets, but they have this handy tournament at the end of each season where we play some games and we figure out who the best team is. And, that's the way we work it out. It's not worked out in mathematical formulas. So, yeah, those are always interesting things to look at and poke holes at, just as some of the, reminds me of political polling, most recently in England, where they had all the numbers, all the statistics, and they were all dead wrong about what was going to happen with the UK elections. But same thing happens here. Nate Silver obviously is a guy who made his reputation doing political number crunching, and now has moved over to sports.
And Dan, too, what's funny is look at these playoffs. Now, obviously, Boston, the Cavs were the favorite, but look at the two series that the Cavs just played, and don't think about it now, but think about it. And if you need help, go back and listen to the shows that we did prior to those series, and you could hear what the narrative was. The Cavs were going to lose each of those series. The Cavaliers were, hey, this isn't Boston. Chicago is going to show the Cavs what a real playoff team is. And then this isn't Chicago, who was banged up and injured. This isn't Boston. Atlanta's the best team in the East. They're going to put the Cavs in their place. And I remember as each game of those series played out, especially when the Cavs were down 2-1 to Chicago, it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to get it handed to them and come back next year and they'll learn their lesson. And then they luckily escaped Chicago, and people kept saying how Chicago beat themselves, and the Cavs are lucky that Chicago was a terrible offensive team and guys got hurt, and never mind the fact that we're missing guys. But then Atlanta, they're going to show the Cavs their place in the league. And then after game one, it was the Cavs won because Atlanta missed all their wide open shots. And then in game two, same thing. They got blown out because they missed a bunch of wide open shots. But it was right around that point that people started going, man, maybe the Cavs are just kicking the crap out of Atlanta here, man. And then, but every step was, it wasn't the Cavs, it wasn't their defense, it wasn't the Cavs, it was the other team missing shots, it was the Cavs getting lucky, it was, and the same narrative here. They've gone into 3 consecutive series with the national media and the know-it-alls saying this is the time that Cleveland gets put in their place, and then afterwards people go, wow, how did Cleveland do that? Same thing here, man.
Yeah, well, you're right, and I remember, of course, before the Atlanta series, here was a narrative. Well, Cleveland has the best player, but Atlanta has the better team.
Right.
Atlanta doesn't have any superstars, but they have the better team. They pass the ball more than any other team does. They share the ball better than anybody else. Look at 60-some wins. You're right. And then, remarkably, halfway through the Bulls series and again halfway through the Atlanta series, when the opponent's players started getting hurt, look at all the injuries they had.
Yeah.
As if the Cavs were supposed to feel sorry for some other team for being injured, of all people. Missing 2 starters at the start of the Bulls series, missing 2.5 starters through the whole playoffs, really. So it's against the Cavaliers, crazy.
Do you think the Warriors were beating Memphis if Curry and Thompson were out for that series? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, or Curry and anybody
Draymond
else.
Green and Thompson or something. Yeah.
Whoever the love equivalent is on that team. Yeah. No, of course not. And,
are they winning? But that Cleveland's okay because we've got LeBron, so it's okay to lose. Only could you lose 2 of your big 3, and it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal for.
That's all you need to say.
That's it,
12
baby.
and 2
in the
2
playoffs.
Sweeps so I don't know. I mean, I just think the Cavs are going to go to San Francisco or Oakland and win a game because that's what they do.
And you know what?
There's no reason for me to think that they're not going to crank up the defense in either game 1 or game 2 and outscore that team once and get a road win, and then the tables are turned and. I don't see.
Don't either. And I'll tell you one last thing on that I wanted to mention that I thought was really, number one, it was an awesome conversation for them to share. But this is another thing about these Cavs that people miss the narrative, man. Did you hear Shumpert talking about him and Smith talking about when they got traded here to the Cavs? And I thought, It just focuses why this team is going to win a championship. Iman Shumpert talked about flying from Memphis when they found out they were traded, getting on a plane and coming to Cleveland. They spent the whole flight talking about what kind of team here it was and what they can add to the team, what they can bring to the team, how they can fit in with what the Cavs need and what they have and defensively and all of this different stuff. And, I mean, it's that mentality. That's why they hit the ground running here the way they did. Those guys literally got on the plane coming to Cleveland going, all right, man, how can we add to what they're doing? And that is the attitude that every player on this team has, and that is why they are just together. This is the best team in Cavaliers history.
Yeah, I think it's fair to make that argument. They've already obviously progressed as far as any other team
one
ever
victory
has.
Yes, they need one win in the finals to be the best ever. That's what they need, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I fully expect that to happen, and I think the national basketball media and the national fan base is going to have their eyes opened and realize that I think LeBron is on a mission to the extent that he simply will not be denied.
I agree.
And, I just feel that, and the rest of the team, I think, feels it too.
Yes.
To me, and I mentioned it last week, when he came out for Game 4, after the last time we had seen him on his knees holding his head
right.
in complete exhaustion, when he came out for Game 4 with the spring in his step and determination on his face, I said, man, 48 hours, and this is the turnaround. And they took that game over in the first quarter, won it in the first quarter.
And that's it. I brought that up after you were on. I brought that up again. I said, Dan's got the best point. 48 hours earlier, he doesn't have an ounce of energy left. And then he was a man possessed. And I said, what is Golden State going to do? Number one, when that's looking at them at the first tip. And then after, say, a Game 1 or Game 2, when LeBron exhausts himself in the game, what are they going to do when they come out at the tip for the next game and he's sitting there pacing like a caged lion, getting ready to go, and they're going, man, this guy doesn't stop, man. That's going to take the heart right out of the Warriors. And, I'm not trying to take anything away from what the Warriors have done this season or anything like that. They are a great team, and I think that these two teams may very well wind up doing this thing again in the future. But this one here, I just believe it's going to be a matter of before they know it, it's going to be too little too late for them,
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it was on my 12th birthday. So I have grown accustomed over the years to, disappointment. And if this team loses in 7 games, I will be disappointed, but I'll get up and go to work the next day and, life will go on. But so it's not as though I think they'll win because I want them to win so badly. I think they'll win because I think they'll win. And, I can't wait for the celebration and just see Cleveland go freaking nuts when it finally does happen. And I do believe we're going to see it. So
it's coming.
That's just something I've waited for, and I've got to the point now where when people say, well, how do you put up with all the disappointment? And I guess I say, with a little perspective that, it's going to be great, but we'll all have to get up and go to work the next day. And, ISIS will still be slaughtering people in Syria. And, the world will continue to have its problems.
Yes.
But our own little world of Cleveland sports be a little bit brighter, and the day will be a little bit sunnier, and we'll all feel a little bit better, and we can have it to hang our hats on for a long time to come if and when it happens. And so anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great for the city, no matter what happens. But I don't see, and I'm repeating myself, I don't see the Warriors beating this team 4 times. No way in hell.
With you, my brother. Hey, you brought up Windhorst real quick. I have to laugh at something, and you and I get into conversations about the media a lot, and we have our opinions on how they go about their business, and Wendy did it again, man. Yesterday, Kevin Love, Bruce even mentioned in the phone call earlier, and I say it all the time, guys will speculate and talk about what the source says or whatever, and I'm like, man, but most of them don't just ask the guy. Just ask him and whatever. Like, maybe he's lying to you, but at least give him the chance to lie to you or whatever. So Kevin Love talks to the media yesterday. People point blank ask him, hey, what are your plans? What are you doing? Do you plan on being a Cavalier next year? Yes, I do. Do you want to come back with the team? Yes, sir. Blah, blah, blah. Saying all the right things, but he answered your question for you. And while you and I are talking, it's like you said Windhorst, and it gave a mental thing. I got an ESPN alert across my phone, and the headline says, despite Kevin Love's own words, Windhorst says Love is very much considering free agency or whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute. So we're at the point, this is creating your own news. We're at the point now where you ask a guy point blank a question. He answers it directly. And your next story is, despite his own words, Windhorst believes Kevin Love may leave Cleveland. How can that be a news article despite the direct answer from the guy?
Well, first of all, Kevin Love has not made himself available to talk to the media since he was hurt. So,
he did yesterday. He did yesterday.
Oh, I know.
Oh, okay.
That's the first time. That's all I'm saying. That's the first time. So, to Bruce's point about why don't they just ask him? Well, the first chance they had, they did. The idea what Kevin Love is doing, that it's been one of the most puzzling and one of the most difficult to read and predict and get any information on, issues of this kind in his entire 20-some years of covering NBA basketball. So he's been fairly forthright when the question had been put to him, what's Kevin Love going to do? I have no freaking idea. And so it's a little bit puzzling now that he comes out and says, it's not exactly going out on a limb for Windhorst to say he'll consider X or Y or Z. Of course he will. And is he saying right now what his agent advises him to say? Yeah, probably he is. And that's, don't cause a distraction for your Cleveland Cavaliers team when they're good, 3 days from starting the NBA Finals. So you can understand all that. Pluto had a good piece this morning about here's what Kevin Love's options are. Certainly, exercising his own player option to come back for $16.7 million is almost 99% for sure what he's not going to do. He's going to do one of 3 or 4 other things, like sign a max deal with the Cavs, sign a max deal with somebody else, sign less than a long-term deal with the Cavs. Probably maybe the most likely situation, like what LeBron did. So there's all kinds of different options, but nobody really knows what he's going to do. And for Windhorst to say he'll consider this or that, like I said, that's not exactly
in general. That was the headline that they sent out, and I'm like, what a just disingenuous headlines, clickbait. That stuff drives me crazy. People that just see it and click it, they don't know, they don't even understand that when you hover over the link, that means it's official and somebody, you know what I mean? Like, so those things just drive me nuts. We talk just
it is that he's saying to say it, and justification. Who knows? Out of line for him to say, I think the last thing he wants to do is, he can hardly help but and he is the headline this morning. He was on the ticker last night on ESPN for having said he was going to be a Cav. So he can't really avoid being the headline. But the last thing he wants to do is be a negative distraction, be a cause a controversy or say something controversial on the eve of the NBA Finals. He's doing the right. He's been a good soldier through this whole time.
I agree with you, man. Let's see how that goes. Last question for you, Jonathan. What's up with this, man? I mean, we've all talked about the clean slate and all that, and I'm not gonna do it. I'm not going to lean on the guy's a target every time he leaves his house. People are going to – I get it, and he knows that by now. He said that this guy is absolutely not any bit in the football field either. I mean, come on. First time. I mean, you can't.
Well, I don't know. In fact, to tell you the truth, Jerry, I knew so little about this, and I followed it so little when the story came out. I refused to click to read about what it was about. Knowing that I would be asked about it today on the show this morning, and this will tell you how important it's been to me, I asked my wife to explain to me what the story was with Johnny and the water bottle because I didn't care enough to look it up. So maybe you're right, and maybe he's learned nothing. And I was particularly distressed to hear that it was an 18-year-old kid. In other words, you can't handle some ribbing from an 18-year-old kid. But beyond that, I'm glad you saved it till the end. Maybe we've already given it as much time as it's worth. Josh McCown's our starting quarterback, for better or for worse. Never has more attention been given to a team's backup quarterback than this. And, I'm bored with it, frankly. And I hope nothing more is made of it. But again, like Kevin Love, it's a thing that no matter what he did, if he belched after dinner, it would have been the lead story on ESPN, or at least number 2 or 3. And it just gets tiresome after a while.
No, and I understand all of that. The incident, as you said, you're walking with a group of your friends from a monster because he threw a golf, and that. No,
actually, Jerry, I'm much more interested in what you may have heard about how he looked at OTAs. Tell me more about that.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I mean, seriously. And it's that Mary Kay, some of the locals too. And he was very quickly pulling the ball. Granted, the entire offense looked bad. The defense looked good. The offense, people that saw Manziel last year and this year in the foot, a lot of off-target passes, and again, the were in all of your reads. Told he was good for him, but football to the.
But hey, as long as they've got Connor Shaw to be our backup, man.
I mean, I'll tell you what.
I
don't know if you saw.
I'm only kidding.
I don't know if you saw some of the articles. First real
backs on the right guys, really.
Even though I get to say I told you so, I would prefer not to, because I really held out hope and said, okay, hey, maybe even if you can get some of what you're trying to see when camp rolls around, but definitely not encouraging. Oh well, there is a lot of encouraging stuff. Maybe Wednesday when we talk, we'll preview the Warriors and talk a little bit. Man, I'm hearing that there's a half a dozen or so undrafted guys here that people don't even know about that may end up making this roster. So it's going to be a lot of competition regardless of what happens at quarterback.
Well, you're right. Certainly they've upgraded the talent of the whole team, and just the fact that they're, for the first time in, 5 years, they're going to have a with the same system, that has to be feeling good about that. And so if you offer that happen, agency, there's maybe as much as 20%. Say 10 guys on the roster that are going to turn over from last year. They'll be young again, but they'll be more talented than they were a year ago.
I absolutely defense, and that's the same thing that I heard. You may have heard that as well, but the defense looked quick. They were fast in their. I mean, obviously, defense is always ahead of offense at this point, especially with a new offense. But did you notice? To the Sports Fix, our friend that's already been established in your look band, you just know is going to know how to brand it and how to promote the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic signs, banners, yard signs. Think of that you need to promote your business. They've got it at Signs and Ship. Whether it's the home base in Pennsylvania, Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy.
In that month of madness in Kluber and Dr. 2 hours there. Maria Sharapova, not as and Dahl in a bit of a battle there. Looks to be pulling away now. We survived. Hopefully, as I said, Jeff Gorman will be here. Indians.